You tuned into WOW FM on 100.5 with Bianca, and I've got a special guest on the line calling in from Reno, Nevada. Stephen?
Yes, Bianca. How are you doing this afternoon in your case?
Well, thank you. Yes, it's evening there and daylight here. Is that correct? Evening there?
Yes, it's a snowy winter's night over here in Reno. We're just a few minutes from Lake Tahoe, and the weather has been crazy this winter.
So we're talking about Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day has crept up on us already. I can't believe how fast the year's gone. It's here in 1 week. But
right, and it's usually a time when people are having a good time, except for those people who are single, right?
That's right. And how is Valentine's Day celebrated in the States? Is it a big deal like it is here? It's a big deal here.
Yeah, it's a very big deal here. It's usually a time where I think it's kind of a litmus test. It's about performance. If you do a good job at observing Valentine's Day, that means you really care and you really love someone.
What, if you buy them a gift?
Yes, and of course there'll be a gift and usually a date. And the gifts are usually something along the traditional lines of flowers and that sort of thing. But a lot of people get much more extravagance and turn it into some much bigger thing. But always at the core of it is the profession of true love, right?
Yes.
So yeah, we usually observe it quite passionately. I guess that's the right word here in the United States. And for us, Valentine's Day is really a litmus test of not only is my love a true love, but also am I a successful person or not? Because if I don't have a lover or a fiance, a husband or a wife, then that means there's something very wrong in my life. And that's how most people take it. A lot of single people drowning their sorrows this week.
Now, I understand a lot of people do go out to dinner and they do romantic things together, but I do know a lot of people that send Valentine's cards or give a little gift or a flower to even a friend. It's not a relationship, it's just between friends and just to show love. So I think that's also quite nice to do that.
Well, I think so as well, but we don't do that too much in the United States, and I think, honestly, most people here would think that's a bit odd, but I think it's a really healthy alternative for people who aren't wanting to be alone and don't feel like reflecting on that part of their life. Also, I think for the single parent, it's a time to really express your love to your children in an appropriate way, like taking them out on a special event or something like that.
So how can people use the time in a positive way to reflect on and improve the mindset about relationships in general?
Well, I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I like to see single people who are feeling like the day is a litmus test on their self-worth to turn the day into a moment of self-reflection where they can consider how it is they came to be, where they are in their life, and really whether being a single person is such a terrible thing or not. Because if, in fact, my life as a single person is so terrible, then why would any right-thinking individual ever want to share my life with me?
Is there a stigma also with people that are single? Because, I don't, I'm sure it's out there, but I do know a lot of single friends, and I think they say they're really quite happy, but then they do sort of report that it is quite lonely at nights. And I know deep down a lot of people would prefer to be in a relationship, let's say, but yeah, it's interesting.
Well, there's an old French saying that, for those people who would really want to be in a relationship, I know there's a kind of an emotional pressure to get involved perhaps a little too quickly. And in French, they have a saying that he who marries in haste repents at his leisure. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, we can just slow down a minute. There's no rush, and take a moment, even though I may be emotionally very needy, I can take a moment to go ahead and be aware of my neediness without necessarily being driven by it, if that makes sense.
And I know there'd obviously be a lot of dating also around this time. I know people searching for love would be, I don't know how they do it, but I have heard people say, oh, well, I'm single, I may as well just go out with him. I mean, is that so good? just to have a date?
Right, exactly. So, well, I like to see people date, but right now in the United States, there's some change in the current, transition to the next generation. The millennials, it seems, are most interested in having sex. You may not believe this, but before the first date.
Really?
That used to be, really, the old model used to be, you would never have sex on a first date, and now it's, no, we want to have sex before the first date. And the thinking there is, we should get that out of the way to see if we even like each other that much that we should even consider dating.
Gee.
And myself, I don't recommend that so much for people because most people have a really hard time disassociating their emotions from that kind of physical intimacy, and I don't think it really makes sense for most of us. But the majority, or at least the plurality of millennials, seem to be very open to that kind of situation. I do like to see people go dating, and dating quite a lot, and then focusing maybe not so much on the end game, commitment and happily ever afters, but instead focusing on the very first initial important question, which is, do I really like this person, and am I having fun when I'm hanging out with them? Am I enjoying their company? In fact, would I be enjoying their company if they weren't of the gender that they are? So many of us get really needy at these times in our lives, and we sort of, I don't want to say we fall in love with love, because I think that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but we're so needy that we're very vulnerable. And instead of focusing on having fun and enjoying ourselves, we often become prey to the first person who pays us attention. So what I like to see is, instead of people finding that or trying to find that one and only true love, the only one who could ever make me happy, my soulmate, if you will, to instead understand that, we're all pretty simple and we're all far more alike than we are different. And there's probably a lot of people out there with whom I could be happy. And if I really take the time to get to know people, and I forget about, for a moment, just forget about the gender and ask myself, am I really enjoying this person's company? And then if I am, that's great, but it doesn't mean I need to make a commitment. I can go ahead and date other people as well. And as long as we're talking dating, we're not talking sex. I mean, if someone wants to go out and have sex, by all means, have sex. But dating is a different thing. I like to see people become very intentional about dating and turn it into a rather pleasurable, enjoyable, but intentional rendezvous for getting to know someone, an interview, if you will, to see if I like this person and we can enjoy each other's company. So I like Valentine's Day a lot. I think it's a really great time for a single person to reflect on where they are in their lives and what are they doing with their lives. But there's so much of a misconception that, boy, if I don't have a date on this one day, I'm such a loser.
Yeah. I think sometimes, what do you think? Do you think that it's overrated? Valentine's Day is overrated? I mean, people that are not in a relationship tend to look at people that are in a relationship and sort of glamorize it and think, they're in a relationship, that's what I want, they're so happy, they've got all their needs fulfilled. But every relationship is an ongoing process of evolving, and every relationship needs work, and there's not always the pizzazz in every relationship. Let's get real here.
Right. Well, that's so true, right? I mean, I had a client one time who told me that her boyfriend said to her he would gladly get married as soon as she could show him a happy marriage. And they never did get married.
Oh, right.
Right? Because there are so many once you get to know a couple, there are actually, I think percentage-wise, very few people who are just so achingly happy that any of us would really envy what it is they have, that we would desire what it is that they have. Most of us are very much aware that so many of the couples around us are really not having the kind of life we would like to have.
Yeah.
So, just to be able to relax and to realize my first and biggest goal here is to figure out how I, as an individual, can have a life worth living.
That's
because
right.
if I can't figure that out, there's no reason why anyone else would ever want to share that life with me. So the question today is, what am I going to do today, and every day, right? What am I going to do today to make that life of mine an enjoyable life that is worth living?
Exactly.
And that's really what I'd like to see all of us doing, right?
That's right. And it's also good to sort of raise the point that I think the greatest relationships are those where people aren't attached at the hip and they are themselves and they do what they want within the boundaries, obviously, but they are just free to be themselves. And there are the ups and downs, and it's just working with it. It's, nothing's perfect. And I think sometimes Valentine's Day can glamorize this idea of love and perfect relationships, which is just an illusion. Let's go back to Cinderella days. It's not real.
Right. Well, that's that part, I think, where we fall in love with love instead of with this other human being and really enjoying them. I really do believe that there is a happily ever after for many of us if we can learn to structure our lives and our romances in a way that really sees the other person. Like in that movie, do you remember Avatar, when those big blue people were looking at each other, and one says to the other, instead of "I love you," they say, "I see you." And to really see one another and to be known and to be understood, I think that's what we all really mean by love, right?
Yeah,
it's
I love
not
that.
It's not just that I have someone,
Wow.
That I can check the box. Yep, I've got that taken care of. It's much more than that, and we don't even have to be married to have that. We just have to be living a truly aware, intentional life where we see the people around us and we learn to love them as they are, within the scope of our ability to love, right? I certainly don't love everybody I know.
Yeah.
But it becomes a way of life after a while where you try to see what is lovable about these people around you. And thank goodness, most people really are quite lovable. The majority of human beings are very lovable,
That's
easily
true.
lovable people.
That's a nice point.
So, but finding them that right person who, or for that matter, one of the right people with whom I could have enough compatibility to be able to relax, enjoy myself, and enough intimacy where I could safely share who I am. And they could look at me and really see me, and even that darker side of me, that side of me that I don't trot out into the sunlight because I'm a little bit embarrassed or a little shy about that part, that part of me that's not always polite or not always sensitive, not always kind, but they find that part of me just as lovable and just as enjoyable as all the other parts that I bring out into public.
And I did read an article a few weeks ago. They were talking about why so many relationships fail, and that's because people, as soon as things don't go their way, or if the person upsets them, they just say, "That's it, that doesn't suit me," and then they go to the next person and they have the next lot of troubles, but in a different area of the relationship. But to accept, not to sort of settle for anything or any scenario that isn't good or healthy, but of course there's going to be the ups and downs, and that is where the love is, like we've talked about, in accepting all of it. So that's probably what we should celebrate in Valentine's Day, acceptance. How should we call it, Acceptance Day?
I have a number of clients. I was just in a group, as a matter of fact, where they were talking about that concept of deal breakers, where we find that we have these lines in the sand over which no one can pass, and how quick some people are to pull the trigger on jettisoning other people from their lives, instead of relaxing, taking a breath, And, well, you know how it's been with voting in the United States lately. We have a very divided country here.
Oh, yes, we know all about that.
One woman was telling me if she was out on a date talking to a man, and he told her how he voted, and she got up from the table and walked away.
Oh, wow.
And I think the mistake in that is that we're all in process. We're all changing. And even some people who've made terrible decisions, they live to regret those decisions. And
True.
Being at that table and having that opportunity to ask the person, well, tell me, why did you vote the way you voted?
Yeah.
How did you come to think that way? You know, they have a story worth telling. They have an interesting backstory that makes them truly human. And we're so quick to pull the trigger and discard each other.
That's true.
It seems like such a tremendous waste of human resources because we really don't see each other.
On that political note, my husband loves Trump, and I'm right on the other side of the spectrum. So you can imagine our house when I've got CNN on and Fox News, and my husband says, "Oh, good on him," and I say, "Okay, let's not fight here because we've had a few little arguments about this." I said, "Look, we're not going to get split up over this topic, so let's work with it. And can we be kind to each other when we're talking about Trump and not get vicious?"
You have my deepest sympathy. I had no idea it was like that. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, and both of you are able to reach out and love the other and tolerate this rather great difference between the two of you, right?
And some of the things he says about Trump is true. Like when I actually listen and don't get upset, I think, well, you know what, my husband's got a point there, you know, and then sometimes I have a point.
Right, and as long as you can see that and appreciate that in each other and at least respect each other enough to listen, you know, to really listen.
Beautiful. Any last words to our listener about this lovely topic?
Well, Valentine's Day for me is really a special day, but it isn't special because I have someone. It's really special because I have love in my life. And for me, you know, my mother died some time back, and like as in Australia, in the United States, we have Mother's Day. But none of us can make ourselves have a mother, right? And no single person can make themselves have a true love.
That's true.
But we can all approach this day mindfully and really enjoy it, and enjoy it for the sake of learning about the kind of love that I want to project and that I want to get back in this life.
Lovely. Always like hearing your insights, Stephen.
Oh, well, it was a pleasure talking to you, Bianca. Until the next time, hey?
Yeah, until the next time. We'll speak again. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
My regards to your husband.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.